Today's lesson is to be able to find the surface area for prisms. Two vocabulary words today. First, we have what's called a net. A net is a pattern that you fold to form a three-dimensional figure. Second vocabulary term today is surface area. Surface area is the sum of the areas of a three-dimensional figure. All right. When we talk about a net, one of the ways that you can find the surface area of a figure is to take the three-dimensional figure and unfold it into a two-dimensional figure, and that's what this example shows here. We start with our three-dimensional figure and we unfold it into a two-dimensional figure, and we find the areas of all of these individual surfaces. We add them together to find the surface area. That works for both rectangular prisms and for triangular prisms. All right? So let's take a look at our first example. Let's try to find the surface area for this rectangular prism. When we find surface area, I like for my students to kind of decompose that three-dimensional figure into several two-dimensional figures. So let's start with the first two rectangles. Let's start with this front rectangle and this back rectangle. Obviously those rectangles would be the same, but we need the length and the width of those rectangles. Length would be 30, width would be 12. So I have two rectangles that are 30 times 12. All right? Then let's take a look at two more rectangles. All right, let's take a look at our side rectangles. I have this side rectangle here and this side rectangle here. Those rectangles are 12 by 12. So we have two rectangles that are 12 by 12. Finally, we have two rectangles that are the top and bottom rectangles, and those rectangles would be here, right? The top rectangle and the bottom rectangle. Those rectangles are 30 by 12 again. So we have another two rectangles that are 30 by 12. If we add all of those areas together, we will find the surface area, which is the sum of the area of all of the surfaces. Well, 30 times 12, 3 times 12 is 36, so it's 360 times 2, that's 720. This would also then be 720 because it's also 2 times 30 by 12. Then we have 2 times 12 times 12, 144 times 2, 288. I need the sum of those rectangular surfaces. That's going to be 8. That's 10, and 2 is 12. Carry the 1. 7 and 7 is 14. 1 is 15. 17. Our area is always in square meters, so that's 1,728 square meters, right, would be the surface area of that figure. Now, there's also a formula that you can use for surface area, and sometimes my students prefer using the formula. The formula looks like this. This is the surface area formula for rectangular prisms only, right? Rectangular prisms. All right, and the formula says that the surface area is equal to 2 times the length times the width plus 2 times the length times the height plus 2 times the width times the height. And that's essentially what we see here in our work. All right. Now, if we use the formula, I like for my students to identify the length, the width, and the height. Now, the length, width, and height are interchangeable, so if you don't write the L, the W, the H in the correct place, it won't affect your calculations, but normally this is your length, right? This is your width, and that's your height. Okay? So if I'm using my formula, it's going to look like this. Surface area is going to be equal to 2 times length times width is 30 times 12 oops, undo that again, 30 times 12, plus 2 times length times height, which is 30 times 12 again, and then plus 2 times your width times the height is the 12 times 12. Right? We see those same values here. 2 rectangles that are 30 by 12, another 2 rectangles that are 30 by 12, 2 rectangles that are 12 by 12. We add all of that together. Surface area is going to be equal to 1,728 meters squared. So we can use the formula or we can decompose. Some students like to draw nets and label their nets. I'm not a big fan of that, so I prefer for my students to decompose or to use the formula. Okay? Let's take a look at a triangular prism and see how this will work with a triangular prism. First, let's start by decomposing our rectangles first. Let's start with this rectangle here. Alright, that rectangle is 13 by 3. So I have one rectangle that is 13 by 3. 13 times 3 is going to be equal to 39. Then we have another rectangle. Let's see, I'll do this one here in red. That's this rectangle here. Right, that rectangle is 12 by 3. So that's a 12 by 3 rectangle. 3 times 12 is 36. Then I also have this rectangle here. Right, that's my green one. That rectangle there, that seems to be 5 by 3. That's a 5 by 3 rectangle. 5 times 3 is 15. But then we have the 2 triangular surfaces. Well, if I put 2 triangles together, I get a rectangle. So essentially, I just need my base times my height. Right? The base times the height are going to give me the area of the 2 triangles put together, because the 2 triangular bases, when I put them together, create a rectangle. So I simply need my perpendicular segments, and we can identify the perpendicular segments by locating the right angle symbol and seeing which 2 segments form that right angle. So I have another 5 by 12 rectangle. 5 times 12 is 60. Surface area is the sum of those areas. 9 plus 6 is 15. 15 plus 5 is 20. Carry the 2. 2 plus 3 is 5. Plus 3 is 8. Plus 1 is 9. 9 and 6 is 15. So I get a surface area of 150, and those are what? Square meters. Alright? 9 and 6 is 15. 5 is 20. 0 carry the 2. 2 and 5. 3, 8. 1 is 9. Yep, 150 square meters. Now, there is a formula that we can use for surface area as well of a triangular prism. Little different formula. Surface area of a triangular prism, triangular prism looks like this. Surface area is equal to the perimeter times, I like to use a capital H because it's the height of the prism as it sits on its base, plus the base times a lowercase h because that is the height of the triangular base. Right? So we have a capital H and a lowercase h I use in my formulas. Alright, so surface area is going to be equal to, well, what's the perimeter? Well, the perimeter is the perimeter of the triangular base as it sits on that base. So that's going to be 5 plus 12 plus 13. Well, 13 and 12 is 25 plus 5 is 30. So the perimeter here is 30 times the height of the prism as it sits on that base. So the height of the prism is 3. Plus, now I need the base and the height of the triangle. That's going to be 5 times 12. All right, that's 5 times 12. 3 times 30 times 3 is 90. 5 times 12 is 60. 90 and 60 also give us 150 square meters. So I see that I get the same area decomposing or I get the same value, same surface area if I use my formula. All right? Well, let's try problem 4. So I'm going to copy this and drag it down a bit just so I can do this. So let's copy this or clone it. All right, I'm going to drag it down here a bit just so we can do this next problem and have some room. All right, so let's take a look at problem 4. Problem 4, let's decompose our rectangles first. So I have this rectangle here that's 3 by 4. So I have one rectangle that's 3 times 4. 3 times 4 is 12. I have another rectangle here, right? And that rectangle is 4 by 4. 4 times 4 is 16. I have another rectangle that's here. That's 5 by 4, right? That's 5 times 4. 5 times 4 is 20. And then we have the area of the two triangular bases. Once again, the two triangles form one rectangle. So the area of the triangle, I have to use my perpendicular segments. That's going to be the 3 times the 4. So we have 3 times 4, which is 12. I need the sum of those areas. So 12, 2 plus 6 is 8, plus 2 is 10. 0 carry the 1. 1, 2, 3. And 2 is 5, plus 1 is 6. So we get 60 square centimeters for the surface area. Okay? If I'm using my formula, right? If I'm doing that same problem using the formula, surface area formula is equal to perimeter times capital H times height plus base times height. Surface area is going to be equal to the perimeter. The perimeter of the triangular base is going to be 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 plus 5 is 12. And then times the height of the prism as it sits on its base. Well, if it's sitting on this triangular base here, the height of the prism is going to be this segment here. So the height of the prism is 4 plus, now I need the base and the height of the triangle, 3 times 4. That's going to be 3 times 4. 12 times 4 is 48. 3 times 4 is 12. 48 and 12 give me 60 square centimeters. All right. The triangular prisms are always a little tougher for students, so just be careful whether you're decomposing or whether you are using your formula. All right, let's take a look at another rectangular prism. These are a bit easier. All right, I'm going to decompose with my two rectangles, or using rectangles. So I'm going to have two rectangles, the front and the back here. All right, those two rectangles are going to be 4 by 2. So I have two rectangles that are 4 by 2. Then I'm going to have my top and bottom rectangles. Here's my top. Here's my bottom rectangle. Those rectangles are also 4 by 2. Two rectangles that are 4 by 2. Then we have our side rectangles, right? They're going to be in green. Side rectangle here, side rectangle here. Those are two rectangles that are 2 by 2. All right, we multiply and add. 4 times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. 4 times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. 16 and 16 is 32. 32 plus 8, that should be 40 square inches for the surface area if I'm decomposing using my rectangles. If I'm using my formula, surface area is going to be equal to 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height. So I substitute. Here's L, W, and H. So that's going to be 2 times L times W is 4 times 2 plus 2 times L times H, that's 4 times 2 again, plus 2 times W times H, that's 2 times 2. 4 times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, plus 4 times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, plus 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. I see the same numbers using the formula and decomposing, so I know once again I'm going to have 40 square inches for my surface area. All right. One last problem here, or two more problems. Why don't you guys try to do these on your own and then come back to the video and see if you do them correctly. All right, but I'm going to do each of these right now. All right, first, let's decompose my rectangle. So I have this rectangle here and its opposite side, this rectangle here. That's going to be 7 by 4. So we have two rectangles that are 7 by 4. My red rectangles, let's try them. I'll try the sides here. This side, right, and this side, that's going to be 4 by 3. Two rectangles that are 4 by 3. And then we have the top and, let's see, top and bottom. So I have the top here, right, and we have the bottom here. Top and bottom, that's going to be, let's see, 3 by 7. So we have two rectangles. Oops, it's a little too heavy. I don't like the heavy ink there. Well, we have two rectangles that are 3 by 7. So that's what? 7 times 4 is 28, times 2 is 56. 4 times 3 is 12, times 2 is 24. 3 times 7 is 21, times 2 is 42. Surface area is the total of those areas. 6 and 4 is 10, is 2 is 12. Carry the 1. 6 and 2 is 8. 4 is 12. So it looks like 122 square meters for our surface area. If I'm using the formula, surface area is equal to 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height. Length, width, height. Remember, right, those, the order in which you use them, it does not matter as long as you have one of the measurements labeled as length, another measurement labeled width, another one labeled height. So surface area is going to be equal to 2 times length times width is going to be 7 times 4 plus 2 times length times height is 7 times 3 plus 2 times width times height is 4 times 3. So surface area is going to be equal to 7 times 4 is 28, times 2 is 56, plus 7 times 3 is 21, times 2 is 42, plus 24. Once again, you're seeing the same measurements in both places, so I know the surface area is the same, 122 square meters for the surface area. All right, the last one we're going to do is a triangular prism. Let's decompose it into its shapes first. Let's do my rectangles first. So I'm going to start with this rectangle here. That rectangle looks like it's going to be 2 by 13. So I have a 2 by 13 rectangle. That's going to be 26. Then we have a rectangle back here. That looks like that's going to be a 5 by 2 rectangle. 5 by 2 is 10. And then we have that rectangle on the bottom. Right, that's this rectangle here. That rectangle looks like it's going to be 12 by 2. So we have two rectangles that are 12 by 2. Or one rectangle that's 12 by 2, sorry. 2 times 12 is 24. Right, we add that together. 26 and 24 is 50, plus 1 is 60. So it looks like, oops, a little too quick there. I did not do the area of my triangles yet, so I got to add in the area of my triangles. So when I go to do the area of the triangles, right, let's do that in red. Here's my triangle, right? But to do the area of the triangle, I have two triangles, so I just need the base times the height, which is going to be 5 times 12. 5 times 12, which is 60. Now we add together. That's 50 plus 10 is 60 plus 60. That's 120 square inches. All right. If I use my formula, it looks like this. Surface area is equal to the perimeter times the height of the prism plus the base times the height. Surface area is equal to the perimeter. Well, the perimeter is going to be the perimeter of the base, which is a triangle. So that's 5 plus 12 plus 13. Well, 13 plus 12 is 25 plus 5. The perimeter is going to be 30. Times the height of the prism as it sits on that triangular base, it's going to be this measurement here. So that's going to be 2. Plus the base and the height of the triangle, it's going to be these two segments here. That's 5 by 12. 30 times 2 is 60. 5 times 12 is 60. 60 and 60 is 120 square inches. So we see we get the same surface area using formulas or decomposing your triangles. All right, I hope that's helpful. I want my students to choose a method that's going to work for them. Thank you.